The galaxy had forgotten about humans. For 200 years, Earth stayed hidden behind a special barrier that made their entire solar system invisible. The other alien races thought humans were gone, maybe even extinct. They told stories about Earth like it was just an old myth, something that never really existed. But humans were very much alive. They were just angry and careful. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his warship, the Valiant. He looked at Earth spinning below, blue and green and beautiful. His homeworld had chosen to hide from the galaxy after something terrible happened. Other aliens who promised to be friends had left human colonies to die when raiders attacked them. 3,000 people died at Proxima Station while the Galactic Council talked and did nothing. Earth never forgot that betrayal. Lieutenant Amy Chen worked at her computer station. Her fingers moved fast across the glowing controls. Suddenly her face changed. She looked worried. "Sir, our outer warning systems are picking up something big. Multiple ships just appeared. The computer says they match Vraxian war fleets." Jake felt his heart beat faster. The Vraxians were insect-like aliens with 6 arms each. They were known across the galaxy as brutal warriors who destroyed every world they conquered. And now they were at Earth's doorstep. "Sound the alarm. Get me Admiral Price right now," Jake ordered. His voice stayed calm even though he felt nervous inside. Admiral Helen Price appeared on the main screen moments later. She was speaking from Earth Defense Command, hidden deep under the mountains. Helen had gray hair and hard eyes. She remembered the old days before Earth hid itself away. She had watched friends die because the Council cared more about politics than saving lives. "They finally came," Helen said. She did not sound surprised. "How many ships?" Amy checked her screens again. "First count shows 200 warships, Admiral. Big carriers, heavy battlecruisers, and support ships. They are waiting at the edge of our barrier." Admiral Price nodded slowly. "The Council always said we were crazy for keeping our military strong. Now we show these bugs why Earth does not need their protection. Morrison, get your ship ready for battle, and wake up the others." All across the solar system, humanity prepared for war. On Mars, huge weapons platforms powered up. They had guns strong enough to crack moons in half. In the asteroid belt, factories that made normal things switched to making weapons and ammunition. And in orbit around Earth, 300 warships that the galaxy thought were just fairy tales started turning on their engines. Captain Lisa Hayes commanded the Retribution, a heavy battleship covered with railguns and plasma weapons. She had trained for 15 years for a war everyone hoped would never happen. Now her crew ran to their battle stations. She felt scared and excited at the same time. "All sections say they are ready," her second-in-command, Ben Torres, told her. "Weapons are hot. Shields at maximum power. We are ready to drop the barrier when you give the word." Lisa looked at the tactical map showing the Vraxian fleet waiting outside. They were probably sending messages demanding that Earth surrender. They did not know that every second they waited gave humanity more time to prepare. The Vraxians thought they were facing a myth. They would soon learn that some fairy tales were real and had very sharp teeth. "Fleet Command, this is Retribution." Lisa spoke into her communicator. "All ships report your status." One by one, the captains of 300 ships checked in. The Endeavor, the Defiance, the Thunder, the Phoenix. Names chosen to remind humans of their strength and their refusal to quit. 300 voices speaking together, ready to defend the world where they were born. Admiral Price spoke to all the ships at once. 200 years ago, the galaxy left us to die. They let our people get killed and called us paranoid when we chose to stand alone. Today they will remember why humans survived when older races turned to dust. Today we remind the universe that Earth bows to no one. Jake felt those words settle over him like armor. Around the bridge, his crew stood straighter. Their faces showed determination. They were children of Earth, descendants of explorers who crossed oceans in wooden boats and survivors who rebuilt from ashes again and again. "Drop the barrier," Admiral Price commanded. "Show them we are not a fairy tale." The quantum field that hid Earth's solar system for 2 centuries collapsed. To the Vraxian fleet, it looked like an entire star system just appeared out of nothing. Along with the biggest military force any single species had ever put together in galactic history, the Vraxian fleet commander was a scarred veteran named Thrax. He felt his heart skip a beat when his sensors suddenly showed hundreds of warships where moments before there had been empty space. The ships looked like nothing in the current galactic database. They were sleek and deadly, covered with weapon ports that tracked his fleet with cold precision. "Impossible," Thrax said in his clicking language. "Humans are extinct. This must be some council trick. His communications officer's jaws clacked nervously. Commander, we are receiving a transmission. Audio only. Translated to our language. Thrax turned on the channel. A human voice, female and cold as space itself, filled his command center. Attention Vraxian fleet. This is Admiral Helen Price of the Terran Defense Command. You have entered Earth's space without permission. You have 30 seconds to turn around and leave this system. If you do not leave, we will consider it an act of war. The clock is ticking. Thrax felt rage replace his shock. These primitive creatures dared to threaten him? His fleet had conquered 12 worlds. He commanded 200 ships. Whatever technology these humans had, they were outnumbered. All ships weapons free, Thrax ordered. Turn these ghosts back into fairy tales. The 30 seconds ran out. Earth went to war. The first shots from the Vraxian fleet lit up dark space like a newborn star. Plasma torpedoes and metal slugs raced toward the human ships. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. The Vraxian commanders expected to see shields break and ships explode. Instead, they saw something that would be talked about for centuries. The human ships did not run away or scatter. They flew forward directly into the incoming fire, and they were smiling. The Vraxian weapons flew through space toward the human fleet. Bright plasma balls and heavy metal slugs that could punch holes through mountains. The aliens expected to see human ships explode into pieces. That was not what happened. Commander Jake Morrison stayed calm on his bridge. Evasive pattern delta, he ordered. His crew worked like a well-oiled machine. They had practiced these moves thousands of times. The ship's computer, called Oracle, spoke in a smooth voice. Plotting best path. Tracking incoming weapons. Point defense systems engaging. The Vraxians did not know something important. Humans had spent 200 years getting ready for exactly this moment. Every training exercise, every simulation had been about one thing. When Earth finally fought again, they would fight to win. The Valiant's defense grid came alive. Hundreds of small guns tracked and destroyed the incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. The few weapons that got through hit shields that rippled but held strong. Technology that humans had taken from old alien wrecks and made better. Target their command carrier, Jake said, marking a massive Vraxian dreadnought on the tactical screen. Let's introduce them to Earth's welcome gift. The Valiant turned, bringing its main weapon to bear. A magnetic railgun that could punch through 3 meters of hardened steel. The weapon charged for 2 seconds, pulling power from the ship's reactor, then fired. The projectile crossed the distance between ships at nearly light speed. The Vraxian carrier's shields flared bright, held for half a second, then broke like glass. The round punched clean through the carrier's hull. Atmosphere and bodies vented into space. All across the battlefield, similar things happened as 300 human warships opened fire at once. The Vraxians had more ships, but humanity had made warfare into an art form. Every shot was calculated perfectly. Every move was precise. This was not clumsy brawling. This was war as practiced by a species that had fought itself for thousands of years before reaching the stars. Captain Lisa Hayes watched her tactical screen with satisfaction as the Retribution's plasma torpedoes hit their target. A Vraxian heavy cruiser went dead in space. Keep firing. Target the command ships and carriers first. If we cut off their coordination, the rest will fall apart. Her tactical officer, Greg Palmer, nodded. Ma'am, enemy fleet is trying to reform their battle line. They are pulling back to regroup. Do not let them, Lisa ordered. All ships pursue. Do not give them a chance to breathe. This was another lesson humanity had learned the hard way. Never let a retreating enemy regroup. Press the advantage. Keep the momentum. Break their will to fight. Ancient human generals had written those rules 3,000 years ago, and they still worked in space. Commander Thrax watched his perfect battle plan fall apart. 20 of his ships were already destroyed or dying. The humans showed no signs of slowing down. Their weapons hit harder. Their ships moved faster. Their tactics were better than anything he had seen in 40 years of war. Pull the fleet back to defensive formation, he ordered, his jaws clicking in worry. Launch all fighters. We need to... His words were cut off as the Phoenix dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above his flagship. The Phoenix had done a micro-jump that should have been impossible inside a gravity well. Captain Ryan Mitchell did not waste the opportunity. Fire all forward batteries, Ryan commanded simply. The Phoenix unleashed everything it had. Railguns, plasma cannons, missiles, and energy weapons all fired together. They overwhelmed the Vraxian flagship's defenses in seconds. Thrax had time for one final thought. Perhaps the humans really were the monsters from the old stories. Then his ship exploded around him. The death of their commander sent shockwaves through the Vraxian fleet. Ship captains suddenly in command made different decisions. Some tried to run. Others fought on. Some tried to surrender. The chaos was exactly what the human fleet had trained to exploit. Admiral Price watched the battle from her command center deep under Earth's surface. Holographic displays showed every ship, every shot, every explosion. It was going better than even the best predictions. "Ma'am, we are receiving a transmission from the Vraxian fleet," reported Lieutenant Kyle Washington. "Multiple ships are broadcasting surrender signals. Accept their surrender but keep weapons locked on them," Price ordered. "And send our message to the galaxy. It is time the Council remembered we exist." Kyle nodded and sent the prepared message on every frequency the old Council used. The message was simple but would echo through the halls of power on 1,000 worlds. To the Galactic Council and all member species, this is Admiral Helen Price of the Terran Defense Command, speaking for humanity and Earth. For 200 years we have stayed apart from galactic affairs. We were abandoned by those we called allies. We were forgotten by those we once protected. Today the Vraxian Empire made the mistake of testing our resolve. They came looking for easy prey and found a dragon still awake and still angry. Let this be a lesson to all who would threaten Earth or her children. We are not a fairy tale to be dismissed. We are not a myth to be forgotten. We are humanity and we remember everything. The next species that crosses our borders will learn the same lesson the Vraxians have paid so dearly to understand. Earth stands, Earth endures, and Earth will defend herself. The message went out across light years. It would reach every major world in the known galaxy within hours. The news would send shockwaves through governments that had grown comfortable in humanity's absence. In the battle zone, the fighting was ending. Of the 200 Vraxian ships that entered Earth's space, less than 60 remained working. Most of those were damaged. The human fleet had lost 4 ships with another dozen taking damage. A victory so one-sided it would have seemed impossible just hours before. Jake stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the last Vraxian ship surrender. His crew was tired but happy. They had proven that their years of training had not been wasted. "All ships stand down from battle stations," he ordered. "Stay alert and begin rescue operations. Someone get me a damage report. We need to know what repairs are needed." Lieutenant Amy Chen looked up from her console, a tired smile on her face. "Sir, first reports show minimal damage to the fleet. We lost some good people today, but we won. We actually won." Jake nodded slowly. He felt the weight of those lost lives. Victory always came with a price. Every name on the casualty list was someone who would not go home to their family. That was the true cost of war. Not the ships or equipment, but the people. "Yes, we won," he agreed quietly. "But the real question is what happens next. We have announced ourselves to the galaxy again. That means everything changes." He was right, though even he could not predict just how much. The council chambers on Unity Station floated in space around a neutron star. The massive structure had seen peace treaties and trade deals for 12,000 years. It had never seen such chaos as when Admiral Price's message finished playing. Ambassador Kellex of the Zephron Collective, a floating jellyfish-like being, flashed colors of distress. "Impossible. The humans were declared extinct after their isolation. Our scouts found nothing for 2 centuries. Because you believed what you wanted to believe, Ray," said Representative Myra Coleman. She was one of the few humans who stayed in council space during the isolation. She had spent 200 years as little more than a curiosity, a remnant of a species the galaxy had written off. Now she stood before them as a reminder of their mistake. "Earth never disappeared. We simply stopped trusting you." Supreme Arbiter Volnus, the ancient leader of the council, stayed calm despite the chaos around him. His species, the Archons, had founded the council when most current races were still discovering fire. His crystal body reflected light into rainbow patterns. "Representative Coleman, your world's isolation was self-imposed. The council made repeated attempts at contact. All were ignored," Volnus stated in his deep voice. Myra's face hardened. "You left our colonies to die. When the raiders came to Proxima Station, when they killed 3,000 civilians, where was the council's protection? You abandoned us because defending humanity was not politically convenient. Earth chose isolation because trusting the council had become a death sentence." The chamber erupted into arguments, dozens of species shouting or expressing anger in their various ways. Volnus let it continue for exactly 30 seconds before activating a harmonic frequency that cut through all the noise. Enough, he declared. The past cannot be changed. We must address the present. Humanity has destroyed a Vraxian fleet of significant size. This will have consequences. The Vraxian Empire will demand revenge, warned Ambassador Thrin, a reptilian species known for military knowledge. They cannot allow such a defeat to stand unanswered. Their culture demands blood for blood. Then they will bleed, Myra said coldly. The fleet Earth used represents less than a third of our total military power. If the Vraxians want a war, humanity will give them one they will never forget. The casual confidence with which she said that sent ripples through the chamber. The Vraxian Empire was considered one of the 3 major military powers in the galaxy. For humanity to claim they could fight such a force meant capabilities far beyond what anyone had imagined. Perhaps, Volnus suggested carefully, it would be wise to reopen talks with Earth, to prevent further problems. You mean to control the situation, Myra corrected. To make sure humanity does not upset the balance of power you have maintained for thousands of years. But you should understand something, Supreme Arbiter. Earth does not need the Council's permission to exist. We never did. We just pretended we did out of politeness. She activated her communicator and showed a hologram for all to see. Footage from the battle, showing human ships moving with grace and power, their weapons cutting through Vraxian shields like paper. This is what 200 years of isolation bought us, Myra continued. Time to develop, to advance, to prepare for the day someone would test us again. While you played politics and let raiders prey on the weak, Earth built a military that could stand against anyone. We learned from our mistakes. The question is, has the Council learned from theirs? Light years away in the Vraxian home system, Emperor Vrakath received news of the fleet's defeat with barely controlled rage. His body, aged and scarred from countless battles, seemed to darken with his fury. 200 ships, he hissed, his jaws clicking in anger, lost to a species we believed extinct. How is this possible? General Klix, one of the few survivors who escaped, knelt before his emperor. His own body bore burn marks from the fight, and he had lost 2 of his 6 limbs. The humans have technology beyond anything in our records, Emperor. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, their tactics more refined. They fought like they had been preparing for this specific fight for centuries. Then we will match them, Vrakath declared. Call back all our fleets from the frontier. If humanity wants war, the Empire will give them one. We will make their homeworld a monument to the price of defying us. Klix hesitated, an act of courage given Vrakath's temper. Emperor, perhaps we should reconsider. The humans clearly have greater capabilities than we thought. A full-scale war could what? Make us look weak? Vrakath interrupted. The Empire has never backed down from a challenge. We have conquered 100 worlds. Some primitive species emerging from hiding will not change our course. Prepare for total war. Back at Earth, Admiral Price stood in the Situation Room with her top commanders. They reviewed intelligence reports coming in from across the galaxy. The battle had been won, but the war, if it came, would be far more challenging. The Vraxians are gathering their forces, reported General Nathan Cross, head of Earth's military intelligence. Our deep space networks detected fleet movements in 3 of their core systems. Conservative estimates put their available forces at around 800 capital ships, with support vessels in the thousands. They outnumber us 4-1, observed Commander Jake Morrison, who had been called back for planning. Even with our technology advantage, those are not odds any smart commander would be comfortable with. Admiral Price studied the holographic star map thoughtfully. We are not going to fight a defensive war. If the Vraxians want to come at us with everything they have, we will meet them in space of our choosing. Nathan, I want targeting data on every Vraxian shipyard, supply depot, and fleet base within 50 light-years of Earth. Ma'am, that is a significant escalation, Nathan pointed out. Targeting civilian infrastructure is exactly what they will do to us if given the chance, Price finished. I have read the reports from the worlds they conquered. The Vraxians do not do occupation or surrender. They strip planets bare and force the survivors into work camps. If we fight them, we fight to win, completely and totally. Half measures will just get more of our people killed. Captain Lisa Hayes, also present for the briefing, nodded in agreement. The Admiral is right. We saw at Proxima what happens when we hesitate. When we try to fight by rules the enemy does not follow. This time, we do whatever it takes to protect Earth. The room fell silent as the weight of that decision settled over them. They were talking about a war that could span light years and cost millions of lives. But they were also talking about survival, about ensuring that humanity would never again be vulnerable to those who saw them as prey. "There is another thing to consider," Jake said quietly. "The Council. They will try to intervene, to mediate. We need to decide how we are going to handle that." Price smiled grimly. "Let them try. For 2 centuries they did nothing while we bled and died. Now they are concerned about escalation and galactic peace. We will listen politely, then do what we need to do. Earth does not need the Council's permission to defend herself." She turned to address the room at large. Her voice carried the steel that had seen her through decades of military service. "Notify all fleet commanders. We are going to war footing. Every ship, every station, every defensive platform goes to maximum readiness. Start calling back personnel from leave and activate the reserve fleets. If the Vraxians want to test us, we will show them exactly why Earth survived when other species fell to dust." The storm was coming, and it would make the first battle look like a minor fight. 3 weeks after the first battle, the Vraxian Second Imperial Fleet appeared at an abandoned mining colony in the Kessler system, 6 light-years from Earth. 800 warships appeared in perfect formation, a show of force designed to intimidate and overwhelm. They found 300 human vessels waiting for them in a defensive sphere around the colony's remains. "So they came," Captain Ryan Mitchell said from the bridge of the Phoenix. His ship had been repaired after the first fight, now with extra armor and better weapons. Right where Admiral Price said they would. His tactical officer, Sarah Peters, studied her displays carefully. "Sir, enemy fleet composition matches our intelligence estimates. Multiple dreadnought carriers, heavy cruisers, and their entire complement of assault frigates. They brought everything." "Then we will destroy everything," Ryan said simply. "Tell all ships to hold formation until my signal. Let them get comfortable." The Vraxian fleet commander, Admiral Xyloth, looked at the human formation with satisfaction. These primitives had chosen to defend a worthless rock instead of falling back to their homeworld. It was a tactical mistake that would cost them dearly. "All ships prepare to advance," Xyloth ordered through his tactical network. "We will crush them here and proceed directly to their homeworld." Today the Empire reclaims its honor. The Vraxian fleet began moving forward. Massive dreadnoughts led the formation while smaller ships provided protection. It was a classic approach. Overwhelming force applied directly to the enemy's strongest point. Against most opponents, it was devastating. Humanity was not most opponents. "Enemy fleet closing to optimal range," Sarah reported. 2 minutes to weapons range." Ryan waited, watching the tactical display as the Vraxians committed fully to their attack. Everything depended on timing and the enemy's pride. Price had predicted they would be so focused on revenge they would ignore basic caution. She had been right. "Signal the ambush fleet," Ryan ordered calmly. "Execute maneuver checkmate." At various points around the Kessler system, 200 additional human warships that had been hiding in debris fields and gas clouds activated their drives at once. They had been waiting in complete silence, masked by special stealth technology developed specifically for this operation. The Vraxians suddenly found themselves surrounded. All ships. "Open fire," Admiral Price sent from her flagship, the Retribution. "Show them what happens when you threaten Earth." What followed was not a battle. It was a massacre. The human fleet had positioned themselves perfectly, creating overlapping fields of fire that left the Vraxians with no safe way to escape. Railguns firing metal slugs at nearly light speed punched through shields and armor. Plasma torpedoes turned mighty dreadnoughts into expanding clouds of gas. Missile swarms overwhelmed defense systems and exploded inside vulnerable ship sections. The Vraxians fought back desperately. Their warriors lived up to their reputation for fierceness. Several human ships took critical damage, including the destroyer Courageous, which was cut in half by a direct hit from a Vraxian super-heavy cannon. But for every human ship damaged, 10 Vraxian vessels died. Admiral Xyloth watched his fleet fall apart around him, unable to understand how the situation had turned so badly. They had been lured into a trap with such elegance he almost admired it, even as his own flagship shook under sustained fire. "Fall back," he ordered. "All ships emergency jump to rally point Beta." Less than 300 Vraxian ships managed to escape the killing field, jumping away in broken groups. The rest remained behind as expanding debris and cooling corpses, a testament to the price of underestimating humanity. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Ryan surveyed the battlefield with grim satisfaction. Casualty report? 14 ships destroyed, 31 with major damage, Sarah reported. Estimated crew losses around 4,000 dead, another 6,000 wounded. The Courageous went down with all hands. Ryan felt the weight of those numbers settle on his shoulders. 4,000 people who would not return home, would not see their families again. Victory never came without cost, but that knowledge did not make the losses any easier to bear. Send full battle logs to Fleet Command, he ordered, and get rescue teams out to recover survivors from the damaged ships. Nobody gets left behind. At Earth Defense Command, Admiral Price reviewed the battle results with mixed feelings. They had won decisively, crippling the Vraxian fleet and buying Earth time to prepare for whatever came next. But the cost had been real, and she knew it would rise before this was over. "Ma'am, we are receiving a priority transmission from Unity Station," Lieutenant Kyle Washington reported. "The Council is requesting an immediate ceasefire and demanding both sides agree to negotiations." "Of course they are," Price said dryly. "Now that we have proven we can defend ourselves, suddenly diplomacy becomes urgent. Tell them we will consider their request after the Vraxian Empire formally recognizes Earth's sovereignty and withdraws all forces from our defensive zone." "They are not going to like that response," Kyle warned. "I do not particularly care what they like," Price replied. "For 200 years they ignored us. Now they can watch while we handle our own affairs." Across the galaxy, the second battle sent shockwaves through military circles. The Vraxian Empire, one of the three major powers, had committed significant forces and been decisively defeated. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not just defending themselves, they were winning. In the council chambers, Representative Myra Coleman answered increasingly hostile questions from other ambassadors, many of whom were now concerned that humanity represented a new threat to galactic stability. "Your people have destroyed over 1,000 Vraxian vessels," accused Ambassador Thrin. "This goes beyond self-defense. Earth is becoming an aggressor. The Vraxians invaded our space," Myra countered. "Twice, both times they were destroyed. That is not aggression. That is consequences. If the Empire had accepted our warning after the first battle, none of this would have been necessary." "The Council must intervene," insisted Ambassador Kellix. "This conflict threatens to destabilize the entire quadrant. Other species are already choosing sides. Old alliances are being questioned. You must agree to a ceasefire." Myra stood, drawing herself to her full height. "The Council will not dictate terms to Earth, not anymore. You had your chance to be our allies 200 years ago, and you chose politics over principle. Now you will watch as we defend ourselves by whatever means necessary. If that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps you should have thought about that before abandoning us to die." She activated her communicator, bringing up footage from Proxima. Images the Council had tried to bury for centuries. Dead humans floating in space, colony domes shattered and exposed to vacuum, children's bodies frozen in the cold dark. "This is what your diplomacy and caution bought us," Myra continued, her voice cold as ice. 3,000 dead while you debated procedure. Earth will never trust the Council to protect us again. We will protect ourselves, and we will never apologize for surviving." The chamber fell silent, confronted with the horror they had enabled through their inaction. Some ambassadors looked away, unable or unwilling to face the consequences of their past decisions. Others hardened their expressions, seeing in humanity a challenge to the order they had maintained for thousands of years. Back in the Vraxian home system, Emperor Vrakath faced a crisis unlike any in his reign. 2 fleets destroyed, thousands of warriors dead, and the Empire's reputation shattered. His advisors cowered before him, waiting for his rage. "We have underestimated the humans," Vrakath finally admitted, his voice dangerously quiet. "They are not some primitive species. They are warriors of the highest caliber." "Emperor, perhaps we should accept the Council's offer of mediation," suggested Minister Thrax. "We can claim victory simply by forcing Earth to negotiate." "No," Vrakath interrupted. "The humans have made us look weak. If we negotiate now, our enemies will sense weakness and fall upon us. We must win, or at least hurt them badly enough that our honor is restored." "What are your orders, Emperor?" asked General Klix. Vrakath studied the holographic display of known space. A plan formed in his mind, ruthless and direct. We will hit them where they are weak, he declared. Their old colonies, the ones they maintained beyond their barrier. We will force the humans to divide their forces. It was a sound strategy, though born of desperation. But Vrakath had made one critical mistake. He still did not understand who he was fighting. The Vraxian strike on the outer colonies came without warning. 12 small human settlements beyond Earth's defensive sphere found themselves under attack at the same time, each targeted by fast-moving Vraxian raiders designed to cause maximum damage before human help could arrive. At New Hope Colony on the edge of the frontier zone, Governor Linda Walsh watched in horror as Vraxian assault ships came down through the atmosphere. The colony had 600 people, mostly scientists and their families studying the unique life forms of their adopted world. Get everyone to the shelters, Linda ordered her small security force, and broadcast a distress signal on all frequencies. Earth needs to know we are under attack. Chief Security Officer Danny Price coordinated the evacuation with grim efficiency. Ma'am, the shelters will buy us maybe an hour. These facilities were not designed to stop military weapons. We need immediate evacuation. Then we hold for an hour, Linda said simply. Long enough for help to arrive. She did not mention that help was 3 days away at maximum speed. She did not need to. Danny understood the math as well as she did. The Vraxian forces landed hard. Their warrior caste came out of assault ships with weapons ready. They expected easy prey, soft targets that would fall quickly. Instead, they found colonists armed with hunting rifles and mining equipment turned into weapons, fighting with desperate courage. Danny led a group of 30 volunteers, mostly miners and maintenance workers who knew how to handle dangerous equipment. They used every advantage they had. Knowledge of the terrain, hidden tunnel networks, booby traps made from mining explosives. It was not enough, but it was something. 3,000 light-years away, Admiral Price received the distress signals from all 12 colonies at once. The timing was perfect. Too perfect to be coincidence. The Vraxians had planned this carefully, forcing Earth to make impossible choices. How long until we can get ships to the nearest colony? She demanded. General Cross pulled up trajectory calculations. Minimum 72 hours for the closest targets. Some of the outer settlements are almost a week away, even at maximum speed. Too long, Commander Jake Morrison said grimly. The Vraxians will have done their damage and left long before we arrive. Then we make them pay a different price, Price declared. Her expression hardened into something that made even her veteran commanders pause. Nathan, I want targeting solutions on every Vraxian military installation within strike range. Not just their forward bases. Their shipyards, their supply depots, their training facilities, everything. Ma'am, that is a significant escalation, warned General Cross. The Council will consider it an aggressive act. The Vraxians are murdering civilians, Price shot back. Scientists, families, children. They want to make us hurt? They want to force us to watch while our people die? Fine. We will hurt them right back so badly they will regret ever hearing the name Earth. She activated the fleet-wide channel. Her image appeared on every ship's bridge throughout the human fleet. This is Admiral Price to all commands. The Vraxian Empire has chosen to make this personal. They are killing our civilians, attacking the defenseless, trying to break our will. They have made a critical error. They have reminded us why we fight, what we are protecting. Today we stop playing defense. Today we take the fight to them. She highlighted targets on the strategic display, 12 Vraxian systems, each hosting critical military infrastructure. Every colony they attacked gets justice, Price continued. For every human settlement they hit, we destroy one of their military bases. Let them explain to their empire why attacking our scientists cost them their ability to build ships. Operation Retribution begins now. The human fleet scattered across the stars. Jump drives carried warships toward distant Vraxian targets. It was the largest coordinated military operation humanity had conducted since before the isolation. And it would show the galaxy exactly how far Earth was willing to go to protect its own. At New Hope Colony, Governor Walsh and her people had held out for 3 hours when they heard a sound that should not have been possible. The roar of human warships entering the atmosphere at combat speed. The Phoenix and 5 other destroyers had broken from the main fleet, pushing their drives to dangerous limits to cut transit time. They arrived damaged from the stress, their crews exhausted, but they arrived in time. Captain Ryan Mitchell's voice came over the colony's speakers. New Hope, this is the Phoenix. We are here. Get your people clear. We are going to clean house. The Vraxian raiders, caught in the open by warships they had not expected for days, tried to flee. Few made it off the ground. The Phoenix and her escorts turned the raider base into a crater, eliminating the threat with extreme force. Similar scenes played out across the attacked colonies. Human ships arrived battered but determined, crews having volunteered for the dangerous high-speed jumps because they refused to leave civilians to die. Not every colony could be saved. 2 settlements fell before help arrived, but 10 were rescued in what would be remembered as some of the most heroic actions of the war. Meanwhile, Price's main fleet struck at the heart of Vraxian military power. Shipyards that had built vessels for centuries burned. Supply depots containing enough ammunition to arm 10 fleets exploded in chains visible from orbit. Training facilities where Vraxian warriors learned their deadly skills were reduced to rubble. The Vraxian Empire reeled from the assault, suddenly realizing they had awakened something they could not control. Emperor Vrakath watched reports flood in from across his empire. Damage estimates, casualty counts, strategic assessments, all painting the same picture. The Empire was losing. "We must negotiate," Minister Thrax urged. "The humans have proven they can strike anywhere, anytime. Our military infrastructure is being systematically destroyed. If this continues, the Empire falls," Vrakath finished. His age showed now, the weight of his mistakes pressing down on him. "I was a fool. I saw a species emerging from isolation and assumed weakness. Instead, I found warriors who had spent 2 centuries preparing for exactly this war." He activated his communicator, connecting directly to Admiral Price. She answered immediately, her expression neutral but her eyes hard as diamond. "Emperor Vrakath," she greeted coldly. "Have you called to surrender, or do we need to reduce a few more of your worlds to smoking ruins first?" "I call to end this madness before both our species bleed dry," Vrakath replied. "What are your terms?" "Complete withdrawal of all Vraxian forces from human space and our declared defensive sphere," Price began. "Formal recognition of Earth's sovereignty by the Vraxian Empire and the Galactic Council. Reparations for the colonies you attacked, to be paid over the next 50 standard years, and a mutual non-aggression pact that will keep your empire far away from human worlds." "Those terms are harsh," Vrakath observed. "They are merciful," Price corrected. "The harsh option involves me continuing to blow up your shipyards until your empire cannot build anything more sophisticated than a cargo hauler. You started this war, Emperor. These are the terms for ending it. Accept them or reject them, but decide quickly. My fleet is already plotting its next strike." Vrakath was silent for a long moment. Finally, he responded, "The Empire accepts your terms. Send the formal treaty documents and we will sign them." "I will have them to you within the hour," Price said. "And Emperor? If you ever threaten Earth again, there will not be negotiations. There will only be extinction. Remember that." She cut the connection and allowed herself a moment of relief. The war was over. Earth had won, not just survival but recognition and respect. The cost had been high, thousands dead, billions spent, but they had proven something crucial. Humanity could stand alone. 3 weeks later, Representative Myra Coleman stood before the Galactic Council once more. This time the atmosphere was different. Where before she had been dismissed or tolerated, now she commanded attention. The galaxy had watched Earth fight and win against a major power. "The Council recognizes Representative Coleman," Supreme Arbiter Volnus said formally. "You have requested time to address this body. Proceed." "I am here to announce Earth's decision regarding our relationship with the Galactic Council," Myra began. She looked around at the assembled ambassadors. "Earth will not be rejoining the Council as a full member. We have learned that the Council's protection is illusory. Its promises are conditional. Its principles bend to political convenience. We will not place our trust in an organization that has proven itself unworthy of that trust. However," she continued, "Earth is not withdrawing from galactic affairs. We will maintain diplomatic relations with individual species and trade partners. We will participate in cultural exchanges and scientific collaborations, but we will do so on our terms as equals, not as supplicants begging for acceptance. Earth stands alone because we must, because history has taught us that depending on others for our survival is a fatal mistake, but we stand willing to be friends to those who prove themselves trustworthy, and enemies to those who prove themselves hostile. The choice of which you become is yours to make." Supreme Arbiter Volnus stopped her with a question. Representative Coleman, what message should the Council take from Earth's actions? What have we learned? Myra paused, considering carefully. When she spoke, her voice carried across the chamber,